Hello and happy holidays. Thank you for joining me on Turn a Moment into a Movement. My name is Jay Love, and I represent the Justice for Gerard Movement. And Turning a Moment into a Movement was birthed through the Justice for Gerard Movement. Gerard is my son who was wrongfully incarcerated for a crime he didn't do, innocent and in prison. And so, because of that journey, I created this journey and we come on here. We're mostly on Fridays, but that might change. Just watch out for 2022. But we come here to talk about wrongful convictions and injustice. Our goal is to awaken our community, have these hard conversations, so it will push us into justice seekers. So thank you for joining us. Today is a special edition of Turning a Moment into a Movement because I thought we were gone, but injustice doesn't take a break. It never gets a day off. So sometimes we can't take days off either. So thank you for joining us. I'm going to bring on the panel. We have some awesome guests today. But before I do, I bring in a panel. I just want to say hello to everyone who's watching on YouTube. Hello for those who are watching on Twitter. And guess what? You can see us on Spotify now. So hello to all of those who are watching on different platforms. And hello, Facebook. So, and thank you. Now I'm going to bring in our panel. All righty. Hi, Trischè, Duckworth.
Hey, everybody.
Oh, my goodness. How are you?
Oh, my goodness. I'm good. And I've been gone for so long. I feel so happy to be back with y'all.
Oh, I'm so happy you're here. I missed you.
Oh, I missed y'all too.
So if this their first time watching us or listening to us, introduce yourself and tell everybody what it is that you do.
So my name is Trischè Duckworth. I am the executive director and founder of Survivor Speak, lead consultant at Value Black Lives. I am a minister of justice.
Yes.
And I'm just grateful to be here. Any and all things justice. And if you step on the opposite line of that, you got a problem with me.
That's right. I know that's right. Yeah, so thank you for being here today for the special edition.
Thank you for having it. It's so much going on.
Yes, as soon as I wrote and posted that we was gonna be off, so much stuff came up. So
yeah.
But thank you. I'm bringing on Rev Tia. Hey, Rev Tia.
Well, hello. I'm so excited to be here today. Thank you for having me on. I tell you, standing in locked arm in arm, like Trischè says, heart to heart, with so many people in this dispensation, I am convinced that it's time for justice. It's time for us to come together. And, I do a lot in the community and, of course, at Transforming Love Community, where I'm a minister amongst a team of ministers. And also, on other platforms to make sure that we continue to educate. I educate, motivate, and encourage others to access that power that is within them. Justice, all we're doing is saying do the right thing as an individual and then do the right thing collectively. And so we got to keep the reminder going and take all limitations off, because know that we are not limited in this time. At this point in time, we have power.
Yes, we do. Thank you, Rev Tia.
Thank you.
I'm going to bring on our next panel member. Hi, Attorney Hugo Mack.
Peace and love, and I always preface all my statements with, can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Okay. Okay. Look, first of all, to all my sisters, beautiful array of beautiful black women. I love it. I'm just loving all of this right here. All this right here. And it is a joy to be here. Hugo Mack is my name. Coming to you not as an attorney who fell down from heaven to grace you with his presence, but who came up from hell through the power of God and Jesus Christ to be with you today. Okay? So I've dedicated my life to defending people who cannot defend themselves. Ran for county prosecutor because we need somebody and needed somebody there who is a minister of justice, not interested in winning, but interested in getting justice. All right? So, and I'm so glad to grow where the Lord has planted me. Okay? So this is my venue. And, you know, my perpetual mission is to try in my own humble way to be an example to other lawyers, you know, other criminal defense attorneys, other lawyers who see what's going on, but they're too scared to say anything. They,
Right.
They're too scared to say anything. You know, they're worrying about that paycheck, that 401k, being able to have some cardboard chicken, you know, with the judge at some, you know, fundraiser. It don't mean a damn thing. Not for me. It don't mean nothing for me. Okay. So, you know, that's why I'm here. All right. I'm here. So I know what it's like to be wrongfully convicted. I know what it's like to pay a debt that is not owed. And so my plea is not only for the wrongfully convicted, but for the overly convicted. The penitentiary is full of people that are overly convicted. And I'm not saying everybody in the penitentiary is not guilty. The vast majority of people in the penitentiary are guilty of something. The question is what? What? Okay? So I don't want to see a man or woman doing 20, 30, 40 years for something he or she is not responsible for. So I'm here to add my voice to the beautiful people on the panel and to keep on doing. And you're right, J Love. Injustice don't take a break, so we can't either. So I'm proud to be here with y'all.
I'm so happy that you're here. Thank you, Attorney Hugo Mack. I'm going to mute you too because I'm hearing the echo.
Dang, I still can't.
All right. So, hi, Val. How are you?
I am fine. Hello, sisters and brothers. It is a pleasure to be here tonight. I am not here tonight to spill any tea or make you feel dazed like you drank a shot of cheap liquor. I'm just here to bring you things from a different perspective, mine. And anything I say, I may not be your cup of tea, but I guarantee you I can be your 10 shots of tequila.
I know that's right.
Now,
introduce yourself. You are one of our special guests tonight.
So I am Valerie Kelley-Bonner. I am the host of the Real Black Coffee, No Sugar, No Cream, Straight Talk radio show because I bring it black, strong, and unfiltered. When it comes to wrongful convictions in the criminal justice system, I feel like some of our brothers and sisters, if white people are friendly to you that are stakeholders in this system or nice to you, that's not freedom. They just being friendly and nice. And for the majority of them, there's probably some reasoning to their gain why they're even doing such. I'm not saying that everyone is not genuine, but I'm saying it's a lot of people who are not. And as Mr. Mack said, you know, a lot of them, they're getting a paycheck, so they're going to do what's best for them to provide for their family, to save their name, what have you. But I will say there are some things that we have learned that we need to unlearn so we can relearn. All of us. Yeah. But especially when it comes to us coming together, fighting for justice, there are some things we have learned that we need to unlearn so that we can relearn.
And the learning is in the unlearning. We have to learn how to let go of all those things we think we know so we can learn something new. So thank you for joining us today. And our other special guest is here as well. Now I'm having difficulties. All right. Here we go. Hello. Hi, Mr. Abdul. How you doing?
Alhamdulillah, I'm good. How are you? It's good to see everybody again.
It's great seeing you. Thank you for joining us.
Valerie.
Introduce yourself.
I'm Abdul Hakeem. Everybody knows me as Roberto. I'm a paralegal in the Detroit area. I'm not so much into activism as I used to be because of my busy schedule, but I keep up with events and stuff just to keep myself informed. And I guess that's as best as it gets. So, but yeah, I do a lot of civil and criminal. Well, not a lot of criminal appeals, mostly civil appeals, and I do the criminal stuff I do on my own time.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm pleased to be here. Thank you.
Yes. So I wanted to say with Trischè. I want her, Trischè. Let's start off with the question that you asked that brought us here today.
Yeah. So, I was just thinking like we are just all in celebratory mode, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not telling people don't celebrate, but what do we perpetuate in the midst of this celebration when we haven't educated ourselves as to what's really going on, right? And we're out spending boatloads of money, empowering an economy that doesn't care anything about us, empowering an economy that sends us to board meeting after board meeting after board meeting and asks for money that belongs to us, right? Like, so in the midst of this celebration, how do we channel our thoughts to start to think about how we can collectively unite even around the dollars that we spend, right? We got a $1.7 trillion spending habit. That what could we do with that kind of power if we were to collectively bring that money together and even infuse it even into our low income and Black communities, how our communities would flourish. And so it's just like, wow, while we celebrate, let's also think about what we perpetuate when we remain ignorant to what's really going on.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Rev Tia.
Well, I was saying what she said right there, that right there. For me, it has been important to implement truth in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Individually and then collectively, individually and then with my family. What is the narrative that I am not only saying, but what is the narrative that I'm demonstrating? Wherever my treasure is going, that's where my heart is. Wherever all my time is going, that's where my heart is. Wherever all my talents are going, that's where my heart is. If you follow my treasures, you follow my heart. And so I've had to ask myself, where am I going? And I've been doing this for the past 5 years now. I refuse to pay a dime right now for anything. And I'm not going to pretend that in this society right now, I'm not going to pretend like there's not division. I'm not going to pretend like there's not any injustices. What I'm looking at is, where's my money actually going?
Mm-hmm.
When I buy this or buy that, or if I go out to eat, where is my money actually going? So this is, for me, is a time of contemplation. Think about what you're doing. Think about all of your acts from the beginning to the end. I believe that right now is not the time to turn a blind eye and to wait for somebody else to take hold and say and make a list for you to say, okay, you should do this, and don't do that. No, it is time for us to take authority over our lives, over our health, over our mind, over our relationships, and to understand that we have responsibility to ourselves first. Yes, Trischè, we have to be accountable. Why? We ask our leaders to be accountable, but then we get absent-minded with ourselves. No more. Accountability starts with me.
Mm-hmm. Val, you want to add to that?
You know, I'm going to say this. The truth cannot set us free until we realize what false belief is holding us hostage. Starting with Santa. You know, we can go all the way back to Santa, right? There are several forms of bondage. We talk about the bondage that comes with incarceration. But we are also in bondage when we are not financially free. Mm-hmm. And what I don't understand with that is financing a dream today is putting you in financial bondage tomorrow. And so with that being said, a lot of people are celebrating and spend money that they don't even have. So we can go beyond that belief, right? If you want to buy a child something and celebrate the birth of Jesus Christ, or, you know, whatever it is, that's fine. But a lot of people spend money that they don't even have. For me, I got in trouble a lot as a kid, so I just didn't start standing up and saying stuff. And I told my mom she was a liar. And she slapped me. It probably wasn't the best terminology to say, but you told me it was a tooth fairy. You told me it was an Easter bunny. You told me it was a Santa Claus, and none of those things are real.
Yes.
So I think we need to start there with, there is a point in time where our morals, values, and beliefs are who we become as adults. But then you have to stop and look and say, okay, I didn't have a choice but to do some of these things as a child growing up. But now that I have a choice, because I didn't have a choice in who I have become from birth to 18 in my mama's house, I really didn't have a choice. But once I got outside of the confines of her home, I do have a choice. And I don't have to continue to do things because they're rituals, or to do things as I see fit according to my mother's vision of life or that particular upbringing. And my first separation started with religion. And, you know, I moved on from there. So I just say, look, the truth cannot set you free until you understand what false belief is holding you hostage. And I will yield the floor.
All right. Abdul?
It's very enlightening what I'm hearing, and I can't agree more. The things that are holding us hostage, you know, someone mentioned something about the Santa Claus. I'm not going to. Oh my God. When you look at the historical context of how it was thrown at us, everything that they sanctified as pure was thrown at us, and we were misled to believe that anything different is not the truth. And it has morphed into this age where it's still pounded on us. Mm-hmm. And like Valerie said, unlike what we were taught to believe as children, we have a decision to make now. We make these conscious decisions, whether we want to still live those lies, or we want to self-revolutionize ourselves and say, you know what? I'm interested in knowing what the truth is, and that's what I want to live. I want to live the truth. So I think we talked about this a couple of seminars ago, and someone struck this up just a few minutes ago. What I see is a lot of self-induced harm, too, in our community. We have to take responsibility, accountability. We know the harms that they're putting in front of us, right? And we have to take accountability, self-empowerment requires investing in ourselves and stop being big spenders and be big savers and invest in our own future, in our generation. It takes a village to raise a child, but we've got to be leaders.
Mm-hmm.
And we know what we got to do. It's a matter of getting there and doing it. I brought up something that a long time ago I was taught. I came up through I don't call it riots, I call it the rebellions in Detroit. And we don't have that fighting spirit anymore. We have become complacent. We still have that revolutionary spirit. It comes to the surface, but then we fold up our tent and we get complacent again, right? We don't boycott in the spirit of Mother Rosa Parks' fighting spirit. What they did, they sacrificed so that they fought for change.
Mm-hmm.
What I see now, we react when something bad happens. And that should tell us that because we become complacent, and we are depending on them to make the change for us, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm proud to say I'm old school. I believe in hitting the pavement, in revolutionizing peacefully when necessary, but hit them in their pocketbooks. Stop giving your oppressor your money. Stop giving your enemy your money. They have the financial power over you. Stop doing it. And boycott, not just for a day or two. We go out here, we hold these massive protests, which are wonderful, but what do we get out of them? Where is the change? We see some, but police brutality is not going to go away overnight, right? No matter how many millions turn out. So I think where the solution lies, that it's in ourselves and taking hold of our own future. I don't know how best to say it, but I think it's economics, social economics, in taking charge of our own future. And look, we know we're big spenders, and we've got to change that. We've got to change that because in this country, America is a capitalist society. The root word of capitalist is capital, money. It drives the society in a what we call in Islam, in a haram way. Meaning it's so bad. We got to break from that mentality that money is what defines me and what defines us. It's good. We need it. Yes. It doesn't buy everything, and it should not buy our souls.
Yes, thank you. Yes. I have so much what I want to say, but I'm going to go to Attorney Hugo Mack.
Well, I'm a little bit different than the rest of y'all. I believe in Santa Claus. But I do think Santa has got a tint of racism in him, and I'll tell you why. I heard the hardest working man in show business, Mr. Please, 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 Mr. Papa Got a Brand New Bag, Mr. Try Me, Mr. Sex Machine, the late, great James Brown, who once said, Santa Claus, go straight to the ghetto.
Yes.
And unfortunately, I don't think there's that many white men walking around the ghetto 12 midnight with a big $500 suit on with a bunch of presents trying to break in black people's houses. So for me, I got an issue with Santa, and I'm trying to catch him and address him on that because he got to slow his roll. Because if he want me to keep believing him, I got to see some of them black presents flowing in. That's all I got to say.
Yes. So first, before I say something, I want to acknowledge that Pastor Mike, who is supposed to be on with us, is in the he's watching us. We're gonna get you on, Pastor Mike. First of all, I want to start with, I don't want to contribute to my own demise. First of all, we have talked about injustice this whole entire year on turning the moment into a movement. And then when these holidays come, we just throw injustice on out our mind and go right back into the program of what was going on before. And I have to agree with Mr. Abdul. We can't just continue to pick and choose our fights. We have to be proactive. We're reacting all the time. And so when no one takes us seriously because we're reacting, we have to figure out how to be proactive. And we're talking about a year, almost 2 years in COVID injustice. We're talking about health injustice, poverty, educational, not even not to also add the reason why we're here is for wrongful convictions. We have all these things, but we're making people rich. We're giving our power away to all these corporations and that pay these lawmakers and everything to do stuff that's criminalize us. We're paying for our own demise. So we have to figure out, where do we draw the line? So if we're saying we're awakened, we have to be awakened on all fronts. We just can't pick and choose. You know, we're protesting this week, and then we're shopping in December. Our heads are spending all this money for what? For what? To be in debt January, February, March, and the cycle continues all over again.
Year after year.
We have to realize, this is just a hard pill to swallow. If I say I'm in truth, I'm in truth.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in truth. So we have to take accountability, because the justice we seek is seeking us. It's seeking us. It's asking us. What are you doing? What are your, what is it that you stand for? So if I'm standing for, to speak out for others, I'm not going out here acting a fool, contributing to making record profits for somebody else. And then there's families who not eating. They might eat on Christmas because somebody gave them a turkey. But what about the weeks after Christmas? And the weeks after that, spring, summer, who's giving them something then? Okay, who wants to jump in? Rev Tia.
Oh my goodness. You know what? I'm so glad we're having this conversation. And I'm so glad that Valerie brought up the Santa Claus thing, because I was one. I did not tell my children that. I told them the truth. And then I took them out. We would do Meals on Wheels on Christmas so they could see everybody doesn't have a family. Everybody's not getting fed. And that's where you start. And I'm constantly hearing, like right now during a pandemic, we're being re-traumatized. And I heard Abdul say it's self-induced. And it is. When you think about it, why is it self-induced? Why are we re-traumatizing ourselves because of a habitual way of acting and doing that has been taught to us, although erroneous as it is? In the midst of a pandemic, in the midst where suicide, nobody's talking about it, has been its highest ever. No one's talking about it. Just going on. People have been hurting. Nobody's really talking about it. Or you can go get help. That's what they say. Or we'll do telehealth with you. All of these things are out here, and then yet we're just going on and trying to get back to. We're going to get back to the new normal, which is the cliche now.
Right.
Let's just be honest. If we really wanted to reflect, however this thing started, however this new norm started, how about those who act like they don't feel anything? How about we not participate? How about we just spend time with our families loving on each other and not pay a dime?
Right.
Do you know, if we had started what they term as Black Friday, which I don't like that term, but if we would have started the day after what they call Thanksgiving, if we would have started then up until all the way past to the new year and held on and saved money and did traditional meals that we wanted, healthy meals, if we started talking about how we're going to collaborate with one another, how are we going to give back to our community, how are we going to pull people together, how are we going to raise the vibration in our community, if we spent time doing that instead of spending money, they would hear us.
Exactly. They don't hear you. You going back to the regular old programming. Oh, I gotta go shop. Oh, I gotta go do this. Cause it's Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
No, I can shop at any time. But wait, there's a pandemic. They want everybody to go get inoculated again, so you can go shop. Stand in line amongst each other. Come on,
supposedly. Supposedly.
That collective that we need, though, there are a few folks standing in the way of that. And one of those folks, sets of folks, look like us. Privileged folks that just don't really see the what's the word I'm looking for, value in some of these collective efforts, because actually what it's doing is it's rocking their boat, right? It's almost like, don't come over here with that. We straight, you know, but they straight because they got boats and houses and cars and got everything they need. And they're willing, though, because they've secured their own power, they're willing to accept scraps on our behalf. And so that's why we sit not having some of the things that we need. And we got Black mayors and we got Black commissioners and we got, let me tell you something. I don't care nothing about the color of your skin. If you ain't doing right, you gotta go. Valerie used to say it all the time. I used to be cracking. People used to be dying laughing. We was out protesting and talking about Ellie. She used to be like, he white, but he all right, you know. But wait, then Hugo be like, but I'm all right too. Yeah, Hugo, you all right too, bro. But oh my gosh, I'm telling you, it ain't about the color of your skin. It's about the realization of what needs to be done, right? And if we don't, I'm gonna stop saying if we don't come together, because some of us just ain't coming.
We're not gonna do it.
Some of us just ain't coming. So enough of us who will, we're gonna have to figure out a way. But
it's always
the one lesson. It's the one lesson that I have learned to date is that it's gonna always be somebody to be like, I ain't doing that because I don't want to do it, and I ain't do, and I gotta go get some gas. It's like,
right. There's always that one person who got it. I got to get those Jordans.
Yeah, I gotta get some Jordans. That's, you know.
But you know what? What's interesting to me is, you know, some people are really in need this time of year round, but it seems like as a society as a whole, we pick holidays where we want to feed the hungry the most. Like Thanksgiving, come get this turkey and this meal, and you see gleaners asking for all of this money and stuff like that. And I have participated in some of those food giveaways, and I walked away saying our priorities are messed up, because the hand that I see some of these young ladies use to pick up that bag of free food got about $100 nail job on it. All the rhinestones and the little baby got on the Jordans. And it's probably about, you know, $800 of Belinda's bundles in their hair, you know. So like you say, we have money, but we need to talk about financial literacy even to our children at a very early age. That materialism is something that we have used to mask ourselves. See, we've been wearing a lot of masks long before the pandemic. And so we are put on our finest and it'd be shallow as hell on the inside, hurting, empty. But to put those things on make us feel good, you know, and I'm not going to say anything but the truth.
Mm-hmm.
That was what my mother did with me. If I had an issue or something going on, it's like, okay, well, I could get the latest and greatest, whatever. And as a kid, sure, that made me feel happy for that moment, but no healing took place. And I feel like, you know, a parent's job really is to raise a child in a manner as such where they won't need therapy when they get grown. Retail therapy is what we use to mask some of the things that we even encountered in our childhood.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like shop, shop, shop. I'm going to look good. This makes me feel good. But none of the healing really takes place. And so when I look at, even within my own circle, my own family unit, at what I'm going to call the misappropriation of funds, I can't blame these young adults. I would have to blame their parents to a certain extent, right? We don't teach financial literacy. I won't say everyone. I did not learn. I'm just learning how to handle money appropriately because my ass getting old and I don't want to be broke. You know, so I'm starting to look at it in a real serious way. But nobody talked to me about money. Nobody talked to me about investing. Nobody talked to me about power. When I thought I had a little bit of a voice, it was shut down because it's like, hey, stay in a kid place. Don't say how you feel around here. Go in your room, you know, or whatever. So we are not grooming a generation of financially empowered youth. We are not grooming the next Detroit Red, Malcolm X. We are not grooming the next Martin Luther King. And we have to start doing that. But one thing I will say about that process, I will not say there are not any, but when I say then, once we do that, we got to get out the way.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've talked to a lot of my elders who always want to talk about how things used to be. There is a place for that history and those stories that you like to hear. But at some point, we have to move on beyond that because only a portion of what was taught historically worked. That's why we still have so much work to do. So let's just take what was effective. But see, we won't be effective in coming together because we can't come together. We're divided as people, right? We're divided. Everybody wants to be the leader. Everybody wasn't the leader in the Martin Luther King movement. He was put out front. There was some people still in the basement of the Ebenezer Baptist Church doing whatever. Somebody was probably in charge of the food. Somebody was in charge of the marching orders. Somebody was in charge of security or whatever. And they just all agreed, we're going to put this brother out here. He's the leader.
Mm-hmm.
We can't have that. It does not work for us. I've labored at different venues, at different tables, at different boardroom tables or whatever. And we just cannot seem to get it together when it comes to working together.
Mm-hmm.
There is always a snake among us.
Right.
And when you look at the demise, when I'm talking about history and us coming together, when you look at the demise of Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, and I could probably go on, it was somebody on the inside that looked like them.
Right.
And we still have that going on.
Yes.
So you're going to have to just get a small group of people who feel, and I don't care what color they are. It could be a green leprechaun. That is fine with me. But we all need to have the same idea. So because see, we could all be on the same page, but your morals and your values is what drive your action. So I think we need to be a little bit deeper in those conversations when we're vetting or when we're talking about collaboration or whatever it is. I'm gonna get behind the fact that we all need to be free. Yeah, I agree on that. But now, what else you got going on? You know, let's just make sure this is a good fit so we can be a cohesive group and move forward to gain whatever it is that we need to get.
Right.
And we are not, we fail at that. I give us an F. We fail.
Right. Because we stay distracted. You know, these holidays and all these things are illusions, and they come to distract you. And so when we're distracted, we can't even, we're in this cycle and we don't even know what we're doing. And so, and I know Attorney Hugo Mack and Mr. Abdul can attest to this when it comes to the justice system. You know, we might have on $300 or $400 shoes and, you know, $2,000 sunglasses, but we don't have $50 on an attorney or anything. If you need that to fight for justice, the system is set up to keep you distracted, so you can't, when you get in these situations, you can't fight for yourself because your mind is gone on the outside, the material. But you're right, we have to get back and focus. We have to organize. And we need to, you know, when I say organize, even within our home and amongst our family members, we have to organize and have these conversations with them, because the system gonna take all of us in order to change it. But first, I guess you need to figure out that there's something that we must change, because some of us so blind, we okay with how it is until it happened to you. And then everybody's phones on the screen is ringing. So go ahead, Mr. Abdul.
You know, going back to something you said and about COVID injustice, what a fitting term from what I witnessed in the past year and a half living here in Northwest Detroit. And what I'm still seeing, I was on the bus the other day, and there's this obsession now with the mask wearing, such that it has put a fear in people where they almost came to blows, and it's come to that. And sadly, it has impacted the African-American community more than anyone else around me, at least. I work in Oakland County, and I live in Wayne County. I live in Detroit. And it is two different worlds. And why? I asked myself the other day, and I got my own answer. I said, it's because there's a paranoia. There is COVID injustice. The racial inequity with respect to the healthcare distribution has impacted the African-American community more than anyone else. When you look at the numbers in Oakland County compared to Wayne County, you see the racial disparity. They are killing the community with a bullet called SARS-CoV-2. And it has gotten to the point, and I've seen it enough. Like I said, I take public transportation. I see people almost coming to blows now because they're afraid of what? Of dying from this, right? But subconsciously, they know we don't have affordable health care. And the history behind the vaccination, I get it, I understand it, but I also know there's a direct correlation between vaccinations and the survivability. I'm no epidemiologist. What I also saw, I depend right here at Sinai Grace Hospital. There were refrigerated trucks lined up outside the hospital that will haunt me for a long time. These were my neighbors. These were African-American people that I live among. There were like, here in the 6 Mile Greenfield area of Detroit, there's like 3 or 4 nursing homes. People were literally dying in front of me. And I couldn't help but recognize the racial disparity behind it. And it was a shame. What control we have over it? But it's an indictment of dysfunction at the government and the healthcare levels in this country. what we got to do, I think Rev Tia said it, maybe this is a wake up to take care of our own health better than what we're doing.
Yeah.
Whether you believe in vaccinations or not is not the issue. That's your choice. I get it. But we do have some control even over that. But I hope it is not what I'm seeing now with the paranoia and the fear of COVID. Is that, are we really getting ready to come to blows amongst each other for this? No, that's not the way. And we do need to be more health conscientious as well as fiscally responsible, right? I live near Chaldean store in Detroit, and I will tell you, I don't shop there. I will go to Birmingham, Trader Joe's. Not a lot of people, I get it, they can't afford it. I get it, and they have a captive audience. But when you live those two worlds of the haves and have-nots, and you see the racial disparity, you can't help but acknowledge that.
Yes, you're right.
We are, a lot of people in my community, they are in a hole. Some of it is self-induced, and a lot of it is not. But in addition to what we've been talking about, financial responsibility, fiscal responsibility, and stop the self-induced harm, like Rev Tia mentioned, being more health conscientious, I think will go a long way. I think it will go a long way.
Right. When you're talking about 13% of the total U.S. population, and the most people are dying, they're not even having this conversation. You know, I was trying to have it on Sam's show on Friday. I'm like, hey, you have to look where Black people live. They're living in a food desert. They're living where the air is toxic. Only in a Black community you have a marathon petroleum company with all those smokestacks poisoning a whole community. But they don't have these conversations. The conversation is get the jab. You know what I'm saying? But what about the conversation about healthy immune systems and responsibility and accountability, not only of ourselves, but also of these companies that pump poison in the air all day long and in the water?
They're not out in Franklin, Michigan.
Yeah. You don't see these companies in the suburbs, Attorney Hugo Mack.
Correct. And you see, the problem we have is so complex, because let's talk about, for example, like McDonald's. Okay. Now, McDonald's will help sponsor somebody like Tom Joyner, all right, or say that they're a contributor to BET or Walmart, for example. I'm sure all of you have seen the Walmart commercials where they talk about helping their associates. You notice everybody who works is an associate. You know what I'm saying? You know, is an associate. You know, a fancy name for a laborer, a person who stacks tomato cans. Okay, fancy name for that. Okay, so but anyway, everybody's an associate now. Almost like they've got a college degree now, and they've got an office, you know, upstairs at Walmart. Well, the problem is Walmart and McDonald's are the main corporations. You know, they don't want unionization. They don't want a working wage. You understand what I'm saying? They don't want any of that. They want to be able to hire and fire. They support the legislation that made Michigan a right not to work state. Right. Okay. So what I'm saying is, but they will put a Black face on, like I said, a Tom Joyner or a Steve Harvey or a BET and say we're a proud sponsor. So that placates Black people. I mean, you know, and for example, I see a woman, Regina King, making Cadillac commercials. Okay, Cadillac commercials. Well, Ford Motor Company, they've never been a friend to Black people. That's why they had a Romulus, you know, and those other suburbs away from Dearborn. You understand? Excuse me, Inkster. I'm sorry, Inkster. Away from where the white folks are with Dearborn. So a lot of people don't understand the whole history of how the city of Inkster even came to being in the first place. Okay.
Or put that city together. The bus.
Correct. that you see what I'm saying? And so what I'm saying is that the problem is, I heard Malcolm talk about Novocaine. All right. And he said how you go to the doctor and they inject you with Novocaine. And the Novocaine, the doctor is not telling you don't suffer. He said suffer in silence, so you don't feel it. You still suffering, because when that Novocaine wakes off, guess what? Your mouth is hurting you quite a bit. Okay. So and the thing of it is that I agree with what everybody is saying, but we have been placated and we fall for it. We see a black face at McDonald's, we see a black face at Walmart, we see a black face driving a Cadillac, and somehow we think that's us, but it's not us. That's not us. Really, to tell you the truth, that's not even them. Okay, they're being paid to be a figurehead of it, kind of like a Judas goat. You know what I'm saying? A Judas goat that leads the other goat into slaughter. Okay, so that's the problem. You know, I heard a group named Pink Floyd one time made a song called "Comfortably Numb." All right, and the problem that we've had in this nation, we as Black people have become comfortably numb, is what it is. Comfortably numb, you know, and that's a hell of a mojo to work out of. But you know, if people like us can make a difference, we can make a difference, and we can't stop.
Right. Yeah, like we just had a Black gospel artist who was supporting. He was promoting some kind of hip hop contest or whatever it was, some kind of music contest. But the company that was putting this contest out was a company that has prison phones. And so many people was trying to say, hey, you know, you're contributing to a company that is contributing to the demise of your people. But, you know, his people, whoever, they didn't see it that way. They thought they was giving artists a chance. But then when you research some of this stuff, some of these same record labels and different companies are investors or CEOs in private prisons. So we have to be more intentional. We have to wake up. Just because they put a black face on it don't mean that it's for us. Right. That's
you know, they didn't just start putting blackface on stuff. Remember blackface like a long time ago, the blackface? You know, so a lot of stuff we're talking about, it's just repeating itself over and over and over. I'm tickled Stephanie say she need her W-2s from Walmart for scanning her own grocery. I agree. I don't work there and I don't want to scan my own stuff either.
And bagging them.
You know, I just feel like I understand the boycotting. I understand spending too much money with these institutions and stuff. But for me, you know, I can say I never participated in a gas station boycott. For what? Where else I'm going to go? You know, now that I'm in the city of Detroit and I live down here, there are a couple of Black-owned gas stations, I assume. I don't know if they're blackface or they're really Black-owned. But I'm saying, we say boycott this and don't go here and don't go there. That's only going to work for a minute. Then where the hell I'm going?
Right.
I don't have nowhere else to go. No Black grocery store, no Black that's on the level of a Walmart, that's on the level of a JCPenney, that's on the level of a Sears or anything like that, where I am going to go and maintain the lifestyle that I have been accustomed to, even on bare minimum. So I'm only going to be able to hold out for so long. And that's why I feel that desegregation was by design, because it just broke us all up. When we were together and segregated, if I was born back then, well, I was born back then. If I was an adult back then, I would want my freedom, but I'm not saying I want to do everything that y'all do. You know, you don't have to desegregate me. Just give me my freedom and give me the opportunity that everybody else has. Right? And I feel that desegregation, that's what hurt us in the form of our mindsets to come collectively together and have everything that we need. That Black Wall Street concept, in my mind, went away with desegregation. We started spreading out. So we no longer had to work together. We no longer had to do all of these things together.
Because people was able to move out of the hood or out of the neighborhood that they grew up. and it broke that family, and that because you could be out, you felt like you made it. I'm out here now. I made it. I don't have to live, on Grandma Street no more, or whoever street. I'm out here. But meanwhile, while we're separated, and while we're doing all the separated, and not only physically but mentally and spiritually, all these other things in the background are really tearing us more and more apart. So, it's even in religion, it's in all these different areas of our lives, in our workplace, our careers, all these places. So
Yeah, I was gonna say, Jay, that the thing about it is that we've gone all these years now. We have, I believe, today, communities are coming together based upon, I think, what Val has said earlier, and that's on values, ethics, and values.
Mm-hmm.
And so the community is going to look different now.
Right.
Because we've blended. Many people have blended in. And so the community is about humanity. And it's about, because we got to realize that sometimes the narratives are old narratives that they keep putting before us so that we can pick a side.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always one side against this side. Mm-hmm. And I believe that we are far above the sides now. Those who are really called to collective action know that right now, this is the time for humanity to come together according to principle, according to values. And that crosses all religion. It crosses all cultures, because there are people who agree in freedom and agree also that we should be loving one another, or at least have care for humanity, care for our nature, care for the earth. And so what I'm saying is, I believe that, yeah, we can't. Back when I was little, the gas station on Oakland Boulevard in Livernois was Black owned. And we knew the owners. You go down, you get your candy, you get your drink or whatever, and you come back. The community hospitals were there. There are no more community hospitals. Right now in America, we have what we call monopolize everything. We monopolize healthcare is a monopoly. Everything has become a monopoly, and we right up under our nose, we didn't see it.
Right.
We didn't see it happening. Yeah. And so it's all these different monopolies where key people are getting most of the monies from this. And so we just need to wake up and say, look, I'm gonna do something different. I may relocate, I might join in with my community, I may start have a garden, or at least make sure I patronize a community garden. Mm-hmm. But my actions need to, like I said earlier, line up.
Right.
And at the same time, I'm recognizing my brother and sister cross humanity.
Exactly. So I want to, you guys, this has been really good, but I need to shift the conversation a little bit. I want to talk about 110 years sentence. Attorney Hugo Mack, have you followed that that young man in Colorado and his 110 year sentence?
To be candid, I'm a little bit faded on that. I can't say I really followed that, to be honest with you.
What about you, Mr. Abdul?
Other than just skimming across some headlines, I don't know I don't know if was he sentenced as a habitual offender, or what was he sentenced for? It was nonviolent crime, right? Like marijuana.
He wasn't habitual. He had a car accident in the semi. The brakes went out. and it was, I guess, a pileup on the freeway, and he was trying to avoid having a bigger collision, and he hit like 4 people. Was it 4 people? And 4 people died.
Yeah, 4 people died. This was, I think, a 28 car pileup.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And he was avoiding that. And so he went a different way, and the brakes gave out. So what I've been gathering from this, you know, he wasn't properly, he might have been too new or inexperienced driver to be able to handle that type of accident. However, he ended up getting a sentence 110 years based off the charges that the prosecutor put together. And even the judge didn't even want to give him those 110 years. But how they stacked the deck, he ended up getting 110 years. And so my thing is stacking the deck, piling up all these charges on people. Why is there like no universal? You know, I know states have rights to do certain things certain ways, but I just feel like there should be some kind of universal laws across the book where people don't end up in these situations that was an accident or something like that and end up getting he's 26 years old and they gave him 110 years for an accident.
Well, states have their, obviously they have their own criminal codes and sentencing schemes. And I would imagine, because based on the number of lives lost, but there doesn't appear to have been any intent to kill the people. I mean, it sounds like it was negligent at most. In Michigan, I think he would have at most got what is called vehicular homicide, which is not even a life sentence.
Right.
And without knowing Michigan's sentencing scheme, whether for each victim he would have gotten consecutive sentences for those 4 deaths, well, under Michigan's indeterminate sentencing laws, you can't give somebody 110 years anyway. I think the Milborn case in the 90s, the Michigan Supreme Court said you have to give a defendant an indeterminate sentence that he or she can reasonably serve. For example, like Judge Talbot used to be notorious for giving somebody 100 to 300 years, and the courts in Michigan said you can't do that. Nobody can expect to live 300 years, okay?
Right.
But in that case in Colorado, based on the facts that you shared with me, it seems like at most he was guilty of negligent homicide. I understand and I appreciate that there was a significant number of lives lost, but it doesn't sound like he intended to kill those people. And it's unfortunate the circumstances turned out the way they did. But 110 years for, how old is he? 20?
23.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You know, and he was Cuban immigrant.
Oh, okay.
Texas resident.
Mm-hmm. And it's his first offense. But states have their own criminal codes and sentencing schemes, and I don't know what Colorado says about that, but it seems it is excessive. It is excessive based on those circumstances. Yeah. It's different now. Like in Michigan, you can be charged with murder if you say, for instance, you commit an underlying felony, you rob a gas station. And Mr. Mack, you probably remember this case. It was about 10 years ago. You used to, if you get in your car and you're fleeing the police and you hit and kill someone, you didn't intend to kill that person. Your intent was to what? Flee the police and get away from the crime. But that person in the other car dies, you will be charged with felony murder now in Michigan. That's a life sentence. So
that just happened today or yesterday.
Yeah, and it used to not be that way under the Aaron decision in the 1980s, where Michigan abrogated what was called the common law felony murder rule. What the court said was, before 1980, if you committed an underlying felony and someone died, the intent to kill was imputed from the underlying felony. So that was a harsh rule, right? Because you got life in prison, even if you didn't intend. Say if you pull a gun on the clerk and the clerk drops dead of a heart attack, you used to get life for that in Michigan, but now, arguably, you won't. You'll be charged with armed robbery. But of course, the prosecutor's going to try to charge you with murder because they say you take your victim as you find him. But anyway, Michigan abrogated that. But this vehicle case I'm telling you about, they changed that recently, and they allow prosecutors to charge you for murder if you are driving your car and you're trying to flee the police and you kill someone. You didn't intend to kill them. I know you very likely you intended to get away, but if you recklessly drive that car in the course of a felony trying to get away from the police, you'll be charged with murder.
So Pastor Mike wrote in the chat, meanwhile, a white kid, 16-year-old boy, was drunk and killed 3 people, and he was sentenced. He received 90 days in jail.
I wonder what state that was in.
I don't know what state that was in.
But there is a disparity, and you're absolutely right. It doesn't matter what state they're in. When you compare these disparities in these cases, the white kid killed 3 people, and in the same set of circumstances, he only gets 90 days. I don't care what state line you cross. It's an absurd result. And this guy gets 110 years in Colorado.
Right. I remember there was another case where a young white girl was on the cell phone. This happened a few years back. And she ran over, she killed the baby and the grandmother. And the judge didn't give her that much time because he said that he felt like that she was remorseful and that I don't even think she even really served any jail time. She was remorseful and he didn't want to mess up her life. And so he didn't give her no jail time. But this lady lost her child and her mother because she was texting the driver.
That's why universal laws will never work, in my opinion, because from state to state, even if it's the same law, how they execute it in the life of the black and brown folks and white folks is 2 different things. So if they make a universal law, then you're just going to see a whole bunch of white folks that won't get charged for crimes that they complete. Right, and they'll be charging black and brown folks up. They're
doing it now without it.
They're doing it now without it. I have my shirt down for a reason. Because this is all I gotta say about that. Okay, that's all I gotta say about that. That man is not a murderer. He's not a criminal. If you're gonna send him to prison, then you need to split that time up with the CEO of the company, the supervisor, the supervisor. You need to pass them 110 years out to those people, because when you are doing your checks for the brakes in a car, and I know I just went through a CDL certification with somebody, when you checking them brakes, you're not under there doing a brake inspection like they would do when you go take it in to be serviced. You pumping that brake, you doing the little minor things that you can do to do your pre-inspection trip. Right. If in fact, he wouldn't have known if those brakes were going to go out just by doing a pre-inspection trip, that would have been for the company to make sure that those brakes were serviced every time they're supposed to be serviced. So for me, how in the world, to me, it's a wrongful conviction or a wrongful charge, because how in the world can the brakes go out? That's just like me. So the brakes go out on my little egg out there, my little Justice. Brakes go out on Justice, right? And I run into somebody. Is it my fault? Because my brakes went out?
I think they would have to show that you had knowledge, right?
Right.
They would have to show you. Here, I'm telling you, in Michigan, I think that's not enough. I think the prosecution would have to show that you have knowledge and you took that car on the road without fixing it. They could charge you I think is involuntary manslaughter. You know what's interesting in Oakland County with that shooting of the kid in Oxford? It's one of the first cases where the prosecutor charged the 2 parents. She's charging them with involuntary manslaughter. And involuntary manslaughter here, at least, is defined where you have a legal duty, at least, to take an action. You didn't do it and someone died as a result. So the brake example you're giving, I think they would have to show knowledge. And that's what they're trying to show with the parents in Oakland County, that they had knowledge, right? Based on all these texts they were sending their son. And that's why they're charging the parents with involuntary manslaughter while the son is being charged, rightfully so, with first-degree murder.
Right.
And what are you doing buying your son a gun for Christmas at 15 years old? But that's a different story. But the perverse of all that is, I don't like, a lot of students died, but enough of the coverage about that. It's always in our face because it's the shock level is just like out there. It's just so horrible, It's just, but okay, well,
So the trauma keeps re-engaging that trauma.
Yes.
And then you have the copycats and other people who are dealing with trauma.
Yeah.
These kids are afraid, and so they're doing stuff, and meanwhile they're being criminalized with felony charges.
And I think that's overreacting. The prosecutors, I understand they have a job to do. If a kid makes a threat with a gun, that's one thing. But I think now they're charging any and all students with terrorism if they're threatening to have fistfights. Now, you and I had fistfights in school when we were suspended. I think they're reacting, right? So because of what happened in Oxford, but again, if a kid is threatening to do harm with a weapon of mass destruction, yeah, you should charge them or get them out of the school. But what I hear is going on is the prosecutor is overcharging these kids for what is nothing more than threats to have a fist fight. That's got to stop, because you're going to ruin their lives now. And what type of discipline is that? That's going to traumatize them, right? You're going to put them through the criminal justice system and put their parents through a public embarrassment when they didn't have a weapon. They didn't threaten to use a weapon. All they threatened to do was have fist fights. Come on now. Get a grip.
Yeah, I agree. I just think they've gone too far, and they want an easy answer. They want an easy answer. People don't want to do their job.
Yeah.
I mean, they knew, according to that child's behavior, that something was going to happen. And like you said, they weren't being proactive. I think CPS should have been called long time ago to that home with my social worker's cap on.
Right. Well,
that should have happened a long time ago. All of that could have been prevented. So there were so many other key things. I think the problem we have in some of the systems is they're waiting for somebody else to do it.
Mm-hmm.
He's not the only one in school with that profile.
Yeah,
I agree with you 100%. But here's the other thing. The solution is dumb as hell. Oh, well, we're waiting to get our order of clear backpacks in. And then, we will resume school gradually as normal. Hold up. We have metal detectors in DPS schools.
Exactly. For
years. We never had a shooting. Not a terroristic school shooting has not occurred. During the civil rights movement, Little Rock 9 walked to school, got spit on, fire hoses opened up on them, and everything. They didn't come back and shoot up the school.
Yes.
What do you mean? You're waiting on your supply of clear backpacks. That is so reprehensible.
Despicable.
No, you need metal detectors, just like you have everywhere else. And another thing that disturbed me, when did Dana Nessel's office need permission to do anything? Excuse me, ma'am.
Right.
You don't need permission to do an independent investigation.
Thank you.
What the hell did you ask that question for?
What did she ask?
We're going to do an independent investigation. Well, Dana Nessel's office reached out, and Oxford, they declined. So, okay, we're fine. No.
They declined.
We're just going to decline. Oxford declined.
Yeah.
To allow Dana Nessel's office, the state of Michigan AG's office, to do an independent investigation. Oxford was like, no, thank you. And she was like, okay.
Right. They said we're gonna bring our own people in to do the independent.
They want to bring their own people in. Let's be clear, because of the negligence of the principal, of the teachers who knew, the principal, the social worker. I mean, this young man started making threats around November the 18th.
Yep. All of those people you named failed that young man. But This is why we have this whole conversation around wrongful convictions and things of that nature, there's no integrity with the policing the police.
Exactly.
That's why I say the question should not have even been raised. Can we come in and do the independent investigation? No, we coming.
Exactly.
You're not gonna hire your own people to do the investigation on your negligence regarding how you handled this whole situation within your school district. Come on.
Right.
So the FBI. So I just want to make sure I'm clear on this. So if Dana Ness will come knock on my door with a warrant, I could say, "Oh no, excuse me, I don't accept that because I want my own independent prosecutor to investigate this because I do not like you."
How long that
Attorney Mack is cracking up.
you know what I found?
Look here. Tattoo my number on your forearm.
Why are you playing? I know I need to have you on retainer anyway.
You know what struck me? The political niceties of it. The Attorney General asking to go into Oxford. But when they wanted to remove Kwame Kilpatrick, the governor came in here and did it.
Mm-hmm.
If this was a Detroit school, I think they would have wrested the control of it. And I hope I'm wrong.
They would have had the National Guard there. What do you mean?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And look, hey, J Love, can I say 2 words that nobody has talked about, but is the elephant in the room that nobody want to mention?
Go ahead, Attorney Mack.
Qualified immunity.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And can I also say, hold on, Attorney Mack, I want to say this one thing, I'm going to let you go. A couple of weeks ago in the Detroit Public School, there was a big food fight that led to a fight, and all those kids was arrested. All those kids was arrested by the Detroit police, came to a school. Okay, go ahead, Attorney Mack. I just had to say that.
Well, no, I'm glad you did. What's happening is, I guarantee you, those principals, any kind of a civil suit or something like that, them teachers, them social workers, all those people who had access to this boy when they were warned that's going on, they are going to be screaming qualified immunity. Yes. They're going to be screaming, we were acting within our legal authority to act. There is immunity. You cannot come after us. And you know what? I hate to tell you this. I think it's going to work. I think it's going to work.
What do you mean you think? Of course it's going to work. It's been working over and over. See, this is what we say this all the time, y'all. People be like, oh, the justice system is not working properly. Oh, yes, the hell it is. It's working exactly like it would and what it was designed to do, because it was designed to cater to folks and to oppress others. And so that's exactly what, as a matter of fact, and this to me is this theme of CPS. We just got 2 cases. One's getting ready to blow the lid off of it because CPS got a report that the youth was being touched by the father, and they like, oh, well, the mother must be coercing them. So the mother's coercing them, and it's not. Then boom, get another call. Mind you, totally different person, same county though. Father is did something to the young girl. Oh, it must be the mother. She's probably bitter and, and so the mother told him, look, well, if that's what you think, then I don't bring him here. Take my damn son to a foster home then. Because I'll put him in a foster home before I see him living there with his daddy and I know what his daddy has done to my daughter. CPS has a problem, but guess what? CPS has a level of immunity.
Yeah, they do.
That is backing them in their position. So how do you get past all of that if there's no level of accountability? Because to me, in both of those cases, and in case here in Oxford, if you drop the ball on something, doggone it, yes, there are things that you can't control in your job and you shouldn't get in trouble for that. But neglect is not one of them. They should be charged like everybody else. What do they call it? Contributory negligence or something like that. That's what they need to be charged.
I don't understand a couple of things about the news coverage of this. they always want to link something to the city of Detroit. Oxford, located 45 miles outside of the city of Detroit, had, what does that have to do with anything?
Right.
What the hell are you bringing that up for? But they just gotta link that in. Everything have to be with the city of Detroit. 45 miles outside of the city of Detroit is a long damn way. You trying to link it like it's around the corner. They always gotta link something to us. Don't link that to us. We have not done that yet. We have our own problems in our community. I am not trying to get away from it, but shooting up the whole school is not one of it. Stop trying to always link stuff.
I had to look on the map and see where it was.
Hey, Valerie. Hey, I got a question for you, Valerie. Okay. Why those parents come to the city to hide out? Can you tell me that? Why they do that?
Because it was only 45 miles from the east side.
And on the east side, you're right.
Come all the way,
hiding like a mug, and got caught because they made a sensor or something go off, and I guess a brother who had business in that building, what's going on. So everybody's trying to see what's going on with the alarm, and it's they dumbass out there hiding, shaking it in their boots. But to answer your question, Attorney Mack, because it was 45 miles outside of the city.
Right? Who's gonna look for us in Detroit? That's the first thing that came in their mind.
I was just thinking, if they on the east side, they were already standing out. Like,
yeah, pretty much.
And people do watch the news. Like, I think I've seen them before. Where I seen them at?
$10,000. Every car looks like that. Got a call. Hey, I seen that car on such and such.
They better run me my money.
They need to up some of that money in Crime Stoppers. Maybe we can solve some of these unsolved murders out here.
That's right.
When Bob Bashara had his wife killed, they dumped her body on the east side of Detroit to make it look like it was a random. We know what they were trying to make it look like.
Right.
Well, go to show you, they say there's no such thing as a smart criminal. He certainly wasn't, because you had your wife killed in your house for one.
Right.
Then you dump her body in Detroit because people would believe it was. And then they try to make it look like it was random.
Well, it's not funny, but it is funny how there's a consciousness.
Yes.
There's a consciousness that's wrapped around the city of Detroit, that's wrapped around people of color, and that this is what happens there.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And we're laughing about it. It's not funny.
It is definitely not funny.
It's not funny, but we know the consciousness. This is one of those things where we're looking at this truth right here.
Mm-hmm.
So what we gonna do with it?
Oh, they're amazed when I share experience as a Detroit resident, been a lifelong resident since 1968. They're amazed at work. And I told them, I've been a victim of random robberies. Some of us are. Some of us have.
Mm-hmm.
And they're amazed. They say, you don't carry a gun on you? I have a CPL license. I don't carry a gun. Well, sometimes I do, I don't. But I don't want to make a bad judgment, right? And I tell them, no, because guess what? This may come as a surprise to you, but most of my neighbors are law-abiding, decent people. And not everybody is a criminal.
Right.
That part.
And I knew this.
Right.
Well, you should know that. Just because, even though you don't live south of 8 Mile, you should know better than to ask that question. Detroit is a more populous city. There's other factors. There's social economic factors. It's not a racist factor that all African Americans are criminals, and I resent that. And it's just like all Arabs are criminals or all Hispanics are criminals. Mm-hmm. And I'm fortunate that I have lived in the city and I was raised by a Black man, that I don't think that way. But when they ask me that, I'm really shocked. I wonder if they're, I'm like, you really believe that? No. Do you really believe all Black people are criminals? You are wallowing in the fallacy, because they're not. They're not.
Exactly.
Right.
Which is why they didn't mind criminalizing our kids for years and years and years, with metal detectors in the schools that they had to go through, not understanding the mental trauma that does to you to even be going to a school where they feel like and put on guard that somebody could be possibly bringing a gun here, but you got a school that really needs one and you won't put it there. It's just these different.
See, they know, Trischè, they know it. That's why they don't want to put it in their school.
Exactly.
They don't want to believe they have the criminal mindset to do what happened at
We
Oxford.
don't have that problem.
I don't want to say this, and it happens, but I don't remember a mass shooting in Detroit schools. There have been shootings, one-on-one fights, and there's been killings, but not mass shootings.
No.
And this is why I think they're resistant to coming to the realization you got to put metal detectors in Oxford schools.
Right.
You know what? You got to put metal. We've lived with it and it works, but we've never had a mass shooting in Detroit schools. Knock on wood. I'm glad we haven't. But they don't want to believe that they have that animalistic behavior.
Right. But that Oxford, you know, most of those people out there hunt because there's a lot of land. So they have that mentality of hunting and shooting, you know, out there, because that's what they do. Let's jump over to Kim Potter. The and those fake tears.
And the Academy Award goes to
like Rittenhouse. I never saw any tears.
Right.
I was going to say, do y'all see tears coming? She, you know, I think she went to the Rittenhouse School of Justice, where they have a dedicated arts program that teaches you how to act when you are on the stand. I was just sitting there like, I just got mad because I am so, again, here we are with differences. Now I go in, I cry and all of that, then I'm looking aggressive.
Right.
If I get emotional, I'm aggressive. But if a white person gets emotional and starts to cry, it's that people are filled with so much empathy and oh my God, you know, and it's just like the tears that will allow you to walk free on a murder that you know you committed, but because you can drum up some tears, then you get to get off. I mean, it's just sickening.
How about the difference between the pistol and the taser?
Yeah.
A bright yellow. How did you think you had a taser? I seem to recall from looking at that video, she had time to realize she did not have a taser.
She said, taser.
She
That's
just,
at least 6 seconds right there.
Right. And a taser is bright yellow.
How about she was a trainer and also the union president of the police union, and also she has coached many other officers through these same kind of proceedings of wrongdoing. That was her job. So she knows exactly what she's doing. She knows to get up on that stand and cry and whatever, because she done train her own officers to do stuff and how to tell lies and how to, you know, to get out of trouble as a police officer. So miss me with your tears, because I know that that's part of your script.
It's a stunt.
Exactly.
Wait a minute. Did you all see where the judge in the Rittenhouse case ripped into the prosecutor about the defendant's constitutional right to remain silent? Prosecutors do that in Detroit all the time, and I've never seen a judge be so zealot at defending a defendant's right. The judge was acting like the defense attorney.
He was on the defense team. What are you talking about? He was a part of the defense.
He sure was.
The prosecutor for commenting on the defendant's right to silence. I said prosecutors in Detroit have done that and still do it. And I've never seen a judge go above and beyond like this in defending a defendant's right to remain silent because of the type of case it was. You know, he shot BLM protesters. Their case was loaded with racist tone in it.
Exactly. So last week there was a white lady who came to Detroit, or she was here already, and she shot up her boyfriend's house, right? She shot up the house first time. he was in the house, her ex-boyfriend, with a 2-year-old and 3 other people. She came back a second time, shot up the house again. She came back a third time when the police was there and shot up the house again, right? 3 times. The police chased her, apprehended her, no problem. She's at probably at the detention center right now. Fast forward to Sunday, a lady at the gas station waving a gun, which we now know is a paint gun. She's shot up by multiple officers. And then when they find out after they killed this lady, she had an air gun. And so the chief was saying how, I guess they did things right. So my question is, are police trained to take kill shots?
Yes.
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 And what happened to disarming?
No disarming. You are taught if you pull that weapon that you are to kill.
They're taught to shoot them right.
I know I was taught that with mine. So I can't speak for them. And, I do feel like they're police officers and they should have a certain amount of restraint. And, I get all of that. But in that instant, they didn't know.
They was having a conversation.
What type of gun she had. It looked real from an instant and your adrenaline pumping. You standing there and somebody got a gun. They didn't know it was an air gun. And then I can even go back. I was listening to the family saying, well, there might have been some mental illness. Well, why wasn't someone getting her some help in their family? Or, why is she wandering around waving the air gun? Why couldn't you have the family wrapped around her and got her some of the help that she needed so she wouldn't be at the gas station with an air pistol? So I'm not trying to negate the fact that perhaps the police could have done something else, but I know if someone's pointing what I think is a gun at me,
they're taught to train the kids. Then
I'm going to do whatever I need to do to go home alive to my family.
Right. See, and that only happens to one. That only happens to one set of people. Right. Because I have seen white folks disarmed by police all the time. They can have a gun. I don't know if y'all seen that video where the man had a machete and he was running after the police.
And he chased them.
Yeah, he was chasing them in the police. But I mean, I have seen multiple videos where police are so long suffering with everybody who don't look like us. But most of the time, even when we're unarmed, we dead. So for me, it's like, I need you to keep that same energy because you know how to not shoot. You know how to talk people off a cliff. You know how to de-escalate. But when it comes to the color of my skin, all you thinking about is how you can shoot me down like a dog in the streets. That's to me where
because the officer had a conversation with that lady.
Oh, that's what I was going to ask next.
Wow.
He had it's on video.
Oh, prior to shooting her?
Prior to shooting her, he hadn't pulled his gun.
I didn't see the video at all. I thought they pulled up. She was just waving this thing, and so they had to take action. But if they were talking with her or whatever, I don't know.
I seen a whole video, and I don't know what state it was, but it was a white man with a gun. And the police officer pulled his gun out. And the white man started chasing him with a gun. And he was running away from this guy. He didn't stand down and shoot him down. He was running and still yelling, put your gun down, put your gun down.
I saw that too.
I did it. I could not believe that video. I'm like, he is actually running away from this guy, but we are
running for his life. Right.
Yeah, I have seen some arrests over the years where white suspects who are armed, drop it. Just and they talk them to dropping the weapon, and there's the disparity when it's a black defendant with a weapon. They get out and they just start shooting.
Right.
Yeah, I have seen that.
That's happened to the young boy in what's that, Cleveland, Ohio?
Oh yeah, Tamir. Is it Tamir Rice?
Right.
Tamir Rice. Yeah.
12-year-old, but I didn't know he was 12 years old. I didn't know it was a toy gun. I did because we're taking kill shots.
Right.
Immediately. I mean, and I get it, and I want everybody to go home at the end of the day.
Right, yeah.
But protect and serve, or protect and kill, or just serve and kill. Because you're not.
All of those things are so circumstantial. Like, I got my CPL through the Wayne County Sheriff's Department, and they were working in conjunction with the Wayne County Community College, and we went to their training facility, and they had a simulator in there, right? And they were simulating different things, and just the adrenaline from the simulator, I wasn't making the right choice, right? I'm firing. So no matter how much training you had at fight or flight response, you know, to try to think within that instant, that's a huge undertaking. And I like what Roberto said earlier. I don't carry my gun because I don't want to have to make the wrong decision.
Right.
Right. They have only a certain amount of time to make that decision.
Right. The window is very thin.
And a lot of times it is the wrong decision. I'm not going to, you know, cover it up, but I just try to put myself in their shoes. And if someone's waving a gun or anything at me, I don't know if I'm gonna stand there and be like, okay, you know, or whatever. I just don't know how that works.
But during this season, you know, that could have been death by, you know, police, suicide by police type of incident. And this season, you know, people do that, you know, they want to be killed. And so, you know, they have to figure out, how can I make that happen? But I'm saying in this season, but I'm saying for Black people, it happens way too often. They don't get the empathy or well, maybe something's going on with this person. Let me see if I can shoot her in the leg or get her to fall over and unarm her. Or, you know, we just straight going for the kill. And so I just have a problem. I personally see a problem in that.
Right.
You know, it's a lot going on. Even when we look at the police officer, I believe they were at receiving hospital. I'm not sure, but the lady was kind of mentally ill or whatever, and she spit on the man, and he about beat the brakes off of her.
Right.
And was he wrong for that? Yes. But even in my moment, I will say this. We have de-escalation procedures and all of that stuff at the agency. But if somebody asks me, if somebody spit in your face or wave a gun at you, what will you do? I would have to answer by saying, do you want to know what's written down? Or do you want to know what I'm going to do? If you want to know what I was taught to do and what's written in my procedure manual, I can tell you that. But what I'm actually going to do is very circumstantial. I don't know.
Right.
And that's the same situation with them. If they have to take accountability because they should have made a different decision and all of that. So I don't think a lot of them are trigger happy. I'm not trying to take anything away from that, but I have family members that are police officers, friends that are police officers, and they don't act like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think it's a personality thing. It's that fight or flight response. It's the authority that they think they have. It's being untouchable. It's all of these other things combined. So when we say we see one police officer that's running from someone else and another one that's shooting, that's based on that person's personality and how they feel handling the situation at the time. Mm-hmm. But if you ask me, you probably can ask every one of them what they should do. Mm-hmm. But when it comes down to it, do they actually do it? So now it comes to how much restraint. And I don't even know during the interview process or the training process. I've never been to a police academy. I don't know. But that's probably something they're not taught. Right. They're taught how to handle and respond and all of that stuff, shoot and all of that. But to have that amount of restraint in a time where your life could possibly be taken also.
They spend millions of dollars in de-escalation. They spend millions and millions and millions of dollars in de-escalation training. So for me, what I think is that with policing, what was policing even created for? I feel like we got to start there. If we start with what policing was created for, then we understand that, oh, that's just little Bobby. Let him go on home, because policing wasn't created for little Bobby, right? It was created for now we're in a time that's more blatant. You can't just let everybody off for doing stuff. You got to give them something, right? 90 days for killing 3 people, as Pastor Mike said. But it's the history of police, and it's the legacy, it's everything that they stand for. Not to say that there aren't some good people in the midst of that, right? Because I have a cousin that is a Detroit police officer, and I worry for him. You know what I'm saying? However, when I think of the history of policing, man, it's a job that I couldn't take myself, right? Just based on knowing the foundation of it and what it stands for. But, you know, and I think that's what people don't look at, that they really, some officers need to look at. And I think that it could cause people to check themselves, but we're always going to see that fine line because of what policing was created to do, and it's maintaining its original, you know, foundation and what it, like I said, what it was created to do. Oh, and one last thing, and I do have to jump because I got to go pick my little cousin up. You brought up something very important, Jay, when you said about the times that we're living in, and you know, people's mindsets and all of that. So, shameless plug, my bad, but this is what it is. SOAR is doing weekly suicide awareness, suicide prevention workshops. And when we think about suicide, a lot of people think, oh, you need to go get people help. You need to do this, you need to do that. But there's something that we all can do to play a role to help save somebody's life. So in these, and we call them our lunch and learns, it's from 12 to 1. In these times, we bring the community together and we give little tidbits of things that people can jump right in and do to spring into action to help save people's lives. You can find that at Eventbrite, and look for SOAR. That's SOOAR, SOOAR, and you'll be able to pull that up, schedule yourself. We love to give people this information, especially now, because these times around the holiday, people truly are suffering, and we want to get the information out.
Oh, thanks, Trischè. So before we go, I just wanted to talk about one thing, the reason why we're here. And that's wrongful convictions. And Mr. Abdul, I'm gonna let you take the lead on this. What's going on in the area of exonerations right now? The year before, we were seeing people exonerated like this. Mm-hmm. Not so much now. I see them in other states, but not so much here in Michigan.
The election is over.
Thank you. Yep, I agree. In 2020, Kim Worthy set a record number of people free. 2021, I think there were only 4, and one of those was not a true exoneration. Ray Gray pled guilty to second-degree murder, so he still has a conviction following him for the rest of his life. The last time I think she freed somebody this year, God, it's been so long, what was it, February? So that's not a good sign of what 2022 holds. We keep hearing about the record number 28 people she freed. Okay, that was within the past 2 or 3 years. 2021, her numbers went down. We haven't heard from Kim Worthy. I have 3 cases pending before her conviction integrity unit. We haven't heard anything. The defendant and their attorneys haven't heard anything. The attorneys I'm working with on the case, a lot of cases, we're not hearing anything. And it's not, in my opinion, that's not a good sign. I don't know if they had a quota, and maybe that 28 was their quota. I don't know. And this is intentional. They don't want us to know internally what their process is.
Right.
If you go to the CIU, they won't give you any answers, but yet they tell you they'll give you status reports. They're not doing that. There's this eerie silence. But we are hearing they got 3,000 murder trials backed up, and she doesn't have the staff. All of her staff jumped ship, and they went to Oakland, Macomb County, where they're getting paid more money. At least that's what she says. I suspect a lot of her staff probably jumped ship because they figure we worked hard to convict these people. Now you're letting them out. There's some politics that I can only say so much about what's going on. I also have some concerns about the review process, if you will, where there are factually innocent defendants. The bar has been raised on them. Things have changed in terms of the burden they're putting on people to prove their innocence now that the election is over, it's true. And if you don't see this, you are willfully blind. I hope 2022, we start seeing 28 more people released, 30, 50 more. There's a lot. This problem didn't go away. And here's another problem. There are certain guys who have been waiting the Conviction Integrity Unit was instituted in 2018 here. They've been waiting that long. But yet there were guys who took cuts in front of them and they're out already. Somebody explain this to me. And they deserve an explanation. I'm not in prison, but they deserve an explanation. So while the Conviction Integrity Unit and Kim Worthy are telling the media, we're so backlogged, but wait a minute, you were backlogged when you let the guy go in 6 months. And there's other guys who've been waiting for 3 years and you won't even give them the courtesy of, or their lawyers a courtesy of a status. You don't think you should explain this disparity? And I do empathize with the innocent person still in prison who's been waiting for 2 years and still doesn't have any idea when, if ever, they're going to do anything. And we keep hearing they don't have money. Well, is that our problem? You knew this when you instituted, or you should have known it in 2018, that the wrongful conviction problem, the magnitude of it, was going to mushroom. And it has.
Yeah.
Here's another thing I find interesting. This Giglio-Brady list. Remember we all heard about that? How come Barbara Simon isn't on that list?
Exactly.
There was a very lengthy Detroit News report about her corruption that spanned 30 years about how dishonest she was. How come she's not on that list? How come James Tolbert isn't on that list, who helped frame Devontae Sanford? We all know that list falls far short of the number of officers who should be on there. That list, we don't hear about that anymore. We don't hear about the officers who should have been added and have been added. You're not hearing. So this is not a good sign. In my opinion, I don't know if this Conviction Integrity Unit is going to be around any much longer.
Right, because we're not hearing about nothing about those. We're hearing about the corruption that's going on now because it's political with the police officers that were doing the tow thing.
Oh, yeah.
But we're not talking about the 70-something ones, or and maybe more now, that couldn't even testify in court because they lie so much. We're not here. And you mentioned Barbara Simon. Didn't she work with Dana Nassau and Dana Nassau?
Yeah, she got promoted to the Attorney General's office.
Yes.
When she worked at homicide, I've got a couple of homicide files where she was the officer on the case. And she coerced bogus confessions from these defendants. And she's not on that list. And you wonder why. Why isn't she on that list? So what if she's retired? You got other officers who are retired on that list. You got who's that dirty cop at the crime lab? He's on the list and he's not working now. That framed Desmond Ricks. But what my point is, don't start slacking when you're supposed to be a minister of justice and you instituted this Conviction Integrity Unit. And by the way, she raised millions of dollars for the rape kit investigation. Remember that?
Yeah.
How come she's not trying to raise money for the Conviction Integrity Unit while you're telling the public you're broke?
Okay, I got to stop y'all. We keep asking questions that we already know. We already know why.
Mike said, let's protest Kim Worthy.
Why? So some folks can come tell us, don't be doing that.
Because
But listen, when all roads lead back to your office, do you want that exposed? When all roads lead, they're quick to call out those where the police framed folks, but when all roads lead back to your office, of course you're not going to co-sign that. There's a case right now. Code D is out. The other Code D is in, waiting. The transcript is clear that police officers lied, witnesses lied. As a matter of fact, the prosecutor in this case, and I know I sat through every court day except when they announced him not guilty. The prosecutor in this case withheld videos that proved the witnesses were lying. And as a matter of fact, I don't know who got rid of it. Could have been Officer Nancy Foster, but somebody got rid of the tape that would have showed the angle of the murder. And it shows in her case notes that she signed for it. And she on the stand, like, they said, well, you signed for it. Where did it go? I mean, well, I don't know. I mean, if that's what my notes say, that's what they say. Why is not a judge holding this woman in contempt? Because we got transcripts where she testified to this.
And the co-defendant, I know that case. The co-defendant is still locked up. He should.
Of course, you know this case.
He should benefit from the same ruling that got his defendant acquitted. And let me tell you something else. I've noticed a pattern when I say there's a politics behind these reviews and who they decide gets free and who doesn't. And I'm not ashamed to say so. There's some racism involved in that also, because they are giving Black criminal lawyers who represent defendants before the Conviction Integrity Unit grief. They're raising the bar on them.
Yeah.
But if you're from Sado or Dave Moran's group, look at the pattern. Most of those 28 who were released came from those two defense firms. Came from those.
Wow.
And I'm in contact with attorneys, African-American attorneys, who tell me that they sense the same thing. Unfortunately for my client, he's not represented by somebody at Sado or Dave Moran's group. And there's a common denominator. And so this is not just political. There's some, there's some racism involved. Here's what upsets me when they talk about progressives. They're only progressives to an extent. Right. But when they think you're stepping on them, they're going to remind you you're not the right color. Mm. And it's coming out. I can't say anymore because there's going to be some grievances filed. What's going on? There's going to be some media attention because the case is pending. But I'm telling you, I'm so upset because I see what's going on, and I have it in black and writing what they're doing to an African-American attorney who has one of those cases in front of the Conviction Integrity Unit. This is why I can't go to these celebrations. This is why I will not praise these people, because I'm telling you, my own religious and moral conscience tells me don't do that, because they are not fair. They're not treating people fairly. They're supposed to be ministers of justice. No, they are not. There was a lot of politics in freeing the ones that they freed. And it's not about, they say factual innocence. And here's another thing they say. If we can't prove factual innocence, we'll let them go on fundamental unfairness. What that means are these Brady claims. And this is why these are all dismissals without prejudice. Because what the prosecutor is essentially saying is, we can't agree that he's innocent, but because of the Brady violation, we're going to let him go instead of retrying him. That's good, because you know what? In theory, it is innocence. But the common denominator is those cases came from Dave Moran's group or Sado's group. Alhamdulillah, their clients benefited. They're out of prison. But if a defendant has the unfortunate circumstance that he's represented by an African-American attorney, I'm telling you what they're doing. They're giving them grief and they're raising the bar on them. I'm not making this up. I know those attorneys and I can't mention their names. Yeah. It's wrong.
Yeah.
And while all this celebration is going on, I know that this is going on behind the scenes. I can't participate in this.
Right. I feel you on that. I want to thank you guys for joining me today for this special episode of Turning a Moment into a Movement. I can't say that we won't pop back in, because we may pop back in. But Val and Mr. Abdul, I want you to know that you guys are always welcome to join us as we head to 2022. Look forward to us to have more conversations about wrongful convictions. This is what we're going to do. We're going to keep on talking about it. We're going to be like a nuisance to them until they can't do nothing else but answer us. Mm-hmm. This is insane. We have to do more to free the innocent. Nobody that's innocent should be in a prison for a crime that they didn't do. Just flat out. And
I can't show up at rallies knowing I have cases pending in front of that unit where they're not being equitable, and then look at the defendant's son in his eyes and explain to him why they're raising the bar on his father while they let other people go out. And I look like a hypocrite showing up at these rallies praising these people.
Right.
I can't do that. I got to explain to these families, what are you doing? Why are you praising them? You know what they did to Joe Blow. You know what they're doing to us.
I don't get that either. I can't do it either. I think that's like an example of what's that Stockholm syndrome?
Where you identify with your oppressor.
Right. You love your master more than your master loves himself. So I don't know, but I know
Master been good to us. What you talking about? Master been real good to us. Don't y'all come over here rocking the boat. We don't want Master to take away our rights now.
No, you know what? The psychology behind it is sad. It really is. Even though subconsciously they know this process is not working.
Right.
But they need to explain to the public, how come nobody else is getting out lately?
Right.
That
should be all of our questions. If 22 got out last year, or 28 or whatever, 28 or 30, 38 should have been out this year.
Exactly. This year.
And it's all of our problems, because guess what? We're going to be the ones. It's our money that's paying these when they win their wrongful convictions. We're about to pay for this, and we shouldn't have to pay. It should come from them. So, and that's another conversation we'll talk about in 2022. But thank you guys for joining me. Go ahead, Mr. Abdul.
I look forward to 2022 still being, an advocate and fighting on paper for those who are left behind. Those are the ones I think about every day. Mm-hmm. I am pleased at the ones who have been freed, but it's not enough.
That's right.
They want us to think that things are getting better. 2021 showed us it's not getting better in terms of the innocent people that are serving time in prison.
Yeah.
That's why we have to remain vigilant, and we should do that in 2022. It's okay to feel good, and it's okay to, to celebrate somebody's freedom. But you have to be careful, because how it's perceived by those that are still locked up.
Exactly.
And they're going to call me out on it and you out on it, that, hey, I'm still here. And and I speak for the ones I truly believe are innocent. I know there are some people that are guilty, and I have turned down their cases. But that's how I hope in 2022 we can stay vigilant on this.
Right. Val, what would you like to leave us with?
I would like to say that there is a role that everyone can play. This is where we need to be very proactive instead of reactive. I feel like when things are very high profile in the news and newsworthy at that time, there's a lot of energy behind it, but then a week, a month later, all of the energy dies down. No, it's a continuous process. Right. Yes, we all suffer from burnout. It's not easy fighting and being on the front line or whatever, but this has to be a continuous process. There is something that everyone can do. Survivor Speaks sponsored a webinar entitled, Are You an Activist?
Yeah.
Because you don't have to be a paralegal. You don't have to have a relative that has been wrongfully convicted. There is something that everyone can do. If the people are out there marching, you can bring some water or, whatever. But there's a role we all can play. Let's not wait until it happens to someone in our family before we want to get involved and put some energy behind the movement.
Yes. Great. Because none of us is free until all of us are free.
Mm-hmm.
So, happy holidays, everyone. We'll see you next year. Mr. Abdul, I know I'm going to see you again. And Val, I know I'm going to see you again. Mm-hmm. And we're going to be back on Turning a Moment into a Movement. Thank you for joining us. I think Attorney Hugo Mack is going to be on something tomorrow on the Nate Frazier show. So check him out. He's going to be talking about wrongful convictions as well. All right. Love you guys. Thank you so much.
We love you too. Take care. Good to see you, Roberto. Have a happy holiday.